struggling to come to grips with reality. Confusion and chaos have become part of me. I seek answers to know where my liberation lies. Only in peace and calmness does that clarity arise. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. So many voices, so many interpretations. No answers given, only outer temptations. Where can I find that truth inside of me? Realization of what I am is all I'm wanting to see. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. No more redirection, ending the contemplation. Forget fighting reflection. Outer world's a projection. Internal is the cause, external's an effect. Put it on pause. I'm silencing the noise, centering, entering void. Truth is beautifully subtle, the voice without a voice. Heart and mind shall settle, making decisions now, escaping illusions of choice. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmission. The wisdom transmissions.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Earth Intelligence Report here on the Saturday. Unfortunately, yesterday I was not able to get on the air. I just had a lot of other stuff I had to take care of. I'm getting ready to go to Egypt here on Wednesday. So we're going to be leaving Wednesday evening, going to Egypt for the Hall of Amenti tour. There will be 23 of us, so it's going to be a really exciting tour. I'll probably have some videos to share while I'm in Egypt at the same time, but we're going to have some real incredible once-in-a-lifetime experiences. That's basically always been my promise when I've done these tours in the past, when I've gone to South Africa, when I've gone to the UK, when I've gone to Bosnia, and now going to Egypt. It's going to be really exciting. This is something, like I said, I've been looking forward to since I was little. So again, that's going to be life-changing. And happy to share that with others as well too. So again, I'll be gone between November 5th and November 17th. Okay, so I'll be back on the 17th, but I'm going to be resting that day, a lot of jet lag, and then be resuming the sessions the next day afterwards. So again, if you are interested in getting a private one-to-one session with me, or again, doing the personal transcendence package, or anything else, I will certainly be back after the 17th, and we'll be resuming those sessions as well too. I'm already getting quite a bit of bookings because I did Michael Sala's podcast just the previous week before, and it's gotten some really good responses. People I've met a lot of new people, a lot of new subscribers are coming on the channel as well too, from Dr. Michael Sala. Michael and I both had a really great conversation. Like I said, it was top notch, and usually our agreement is every few months I come on and we just do some updates and so forth, right? So again, and this is also something I wanted to share, if anybody does have a podcast out there, and if you want to talk to me, and if you want to book something together with me, you can always drop me an email. It's always been a great pleasure to work with Michael because he's very much active in the community, and he has a great show and a great program. So I'm always happy to do more work with him. He's a good, honest, genuine person. So I'm happy to work with people like that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started today with the Earth Intelligence Report, because we have a really exciting, groundbreaking Earth Intelligence Report here about the human guardians of the moon, specifically information about the human guardians that I didn't even know about. So again, the Consortium of Infinite Intelligence gives a little bit more information, even more than what Adronis has given. So this is going to be very interesting. So I will go ahead and take a moment and we'll get started with the Earth Intelligence Report. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Right, I've boosted up my microphone top notch, so hopefully it's going to be good for everybody. All right, here we go. To the Consortium of Infinite Intelligence, please share more information relating to the human guardians and the role they play upon our own Earth's moon. The Consortium of Infinite Intelligence replies, "We acknowledge your query. To understand that which is termed as the human guardians is to understand the subject of parallel conjunction between a multitude of Earths working together with the Earth that you occupy. Understand that which is termed as guardianship on a human level is the result of fragmentation that is orienting itself back into its wholeness. The ones known as the human guardians represent a group of civilizations, conjoined throughout an Earth collective not yet familiar to you, so that a re-initiation of convergence may take place. The role that such beings hold that you refer to as human guardians involves the usage, tenancy, and implementation of important technologies that reside within and upon your moon at this time. The goal of the human guardians is to work with such technology together with the unification of other civilizations within, upon, and beyond the Earth to assist in the convergence of worlds that has been split. This splitting has occurred through conflicts that have bred war throughout this plane for a great many centuries. In utilizing the resources and apparatus upon the moon, this leads to an eventual reversal and harmonizing of what has been generated only defined as Earth plane fragmentation. Like a beam of light shining through a prism with many facets, the light forms distortions of rainbow incoherency. Through what is available by mutual cooperation, enables the possibility for the beam, once fragmented, to become whole throughout the prism again. That which fragmented the incoherence of the prism enabled separation consciousness to exist. By the releasing of the fragmentation comes the defragmentation, and the many worlds once again become a stream of union and coherency again. This is the role of what you have termed as the human guardians. They consist of these groups to end the abolishment that has led to separation and incoherency of the prism, only to have it reform and initiate a convergence of energies to bring the alignment once back into wholeness. A world of wholeness free from contaminating technologies that have generated the illusion of incoherence and of separation consciousness. Question: in understanding this defragmentation to occur, when will such an event take place? Answer: to answer your question, you must witness the flow of event as it currently stands throughout your world. It is an orchestration of events kept to generate a continuity of factors, playing out leading back into unity consciousness. Therefore, your event grid that propagates the events currently unfolding is the result of holography, created through a collective mind. The events are deliberate, generated for the reason of seeing the sands from the top level of the hourglass moving through the center towards the bottom. The understanding of this generation of holographic outcomes shall culminate through the convergence of 2038, when the flow reverses. Intended effects of harm throughout the prism will move back into a coherent flow after that time, which represents the prism, not the prison. Therefore, what is being done upon the moon and upon other fragmented Earths caught in the illusion of separation is the operation to remedy the distortion of the fractured prism. The center point of the hourglass is the central hub where after 2038, the reversal will commence and a greater convergence of worlds will implement their alignment back into the one. No further fractures in the mass. Shattering becomes repaired, rifts become stabilized, misalignments become aligned. This is the role of the human guardians and the associated groups that operate in coherence with them. Convergence of all that has been distorted back into unified alignment so that time, as you know it to be, flows naturally and without distortion. Question: could this be the reason why our time as we know it now feels quickened and accelerated? Answer: your assumption is correct. The flow of time is a result of a tampering of the hologram, attempting forceful intrusion into slipping the fractures of worlds into, as it were, darker domains. However, this strategy has backfired, and the flow flows in the opposite direction. Correction leading into unification, rendering of technologies and resources together in group consciousness to reform the mass as one whole. Singularity returning to equilibrium, separation into wholeness. Time acceleration represents an unnatural current created by technology and twisted will. This will reverse. This will be reset. 2038 is the central point to this. This is what can be shared for this transmission. We are the consortium of infinite intelligence and will now conclude. Okay. I had to clear my throat for a second. So that is the message that the Consortium of Infinite Intelligence was able to give. It is profound, right? It is something that goes into a lot more detail about looking at much more of the bigger picture of what's actually happening, right? Adronis always tries to bring things much more into digestible bits that we can understand. And when I connect with the Consortium, they're very much more right-brained, right? So they're trying to give me this bigger picture of what's actually happening. I was seeing it at the same time I was doing the transmission and basically just doing what I can to stay in the flow and put the words together. Now, some of you may be a little bit confused by that message and saying, what is it trying to say? What's actually going on here, right? What does this mean by time acceleration? You say time acceleration is a distortion. What about these dark domains? What's happening here? All right, so if I was to use this as the prism, okay, and let's just say that this marble here has a whole bunch of different facets to it. And this represents the light. The light is going through the prism and it is scattering in many different directions as a rainbow spectrum. So that rainbow spectrum represents higher levels of distortion. So all of these distortion algorithms are basically taking place. So the prism itself is being messed with. The actual technology that enables the hologram to be created is basically being fractured. It's like taking a rock and throwing it at a mirror and seeing the shattering of the mirror altogether. And you got all these cracks and fractures here. So basically what's happened is that there are certain groups in the universe that have actually tried to tamper with the hologram of life. That's exactly what they've been trying to do. And they have basically taken that big stone and they've thrown it against the mirror, or we could say the prism, right? And it's created a shattering, a fractaling. And then when you shine a light through it, you got all of this mess of light rays that are just going all over the place because you're not looking at a harmonic anymore. You're looking at a distortion. So what is happening is the rebuilding of that mirror. It's the rebuilding of that prism. And so what the human guardians are doing is they are working together with associations. This is what Adronis was also saying as well too. So it's not just the human guardians, they are working with many other different civilizations as well too. And we can basically look at the idea of the Earth right here, and we're seeing an Earth skewed over here, and then an Earth skewed over here, and then an Earth skewed over here, and then an Earth skewed over here. There are skewed Earths, and that's not how it's supposed to be. They should all be an interlock. So what's happened is that this prism that has been sabotaged is basically skewing dimensions, which is not supposed to be happening. And so this is exactly part of this, you could say, spiritual war that's been happening. Edgar Cayce has talked about this quite extensively. Even in the Bible, of course, they've talked about this quote-unquote Armageddon. The Armageddon really just represents the idea of a transitional phase. It's moving us into transformation. But we're basically seeing the tail end of this very large spiritual war that has been happening for many thousands of years. And it really has to do with a lot of, you could basically just say, the dark force. It's almost like the ego of the universe, right? That's the best way I could put it, because it goes beyond any particular type of extraterrestrial group. It goes beyond any particular type of deity or anything of that nature. It would really represent the complete and total ego of the universe. And it has basically gathered a lot of dark forces to try and ruin the harmony that exists within this universe. So even when we look at 2038, we're looking at the idea of, like I said, an hourglass, right? So how it converges here in the middle, and then it comes out like this. And again, as the consortium was saying, is that the sands in the hourglass are moving through the central hub, and when they fall through the bottom, that falling through the bottom is going to lead to transformation, unity consciousness, right? So we're moving out of this separation consciousness window, and we're about to move into an era that is going to start bringing about unity consciousness upon the planet post 2038. So a lot of you have heard me talk about 2038 and saying, oh, bro, that's a long time away. Well, this is not a date I've made up, my friends. This is talking about a cycle, okay? Just like we understand 12,500 year cycles or 25,000 or 26,000 year cycles, right? These are natural cycles, right? We even have the yugas that track these particular cycles that all go around 25,920 years. What we're looking at 2038 is a culmination of a particular cycle. This is not something that's made up. This is not something that a date is just made up in my head to give to all of you. This is something that is actually part of prophecy, right? Again, this all comes through Egyptian study and research. And there are certain researchers, one person being John Van Elken, who's dedicated his life in looking into the pyramid inch and looking into the Egyptian timeline. And when you put the pyramid inch together and you look at the entirety of the Egyptian timeline, where again you are able to accurately discover all of these major events that have happened throughout the pyramid inch, throughout the timeline, that particular timeline ends in 2038, right? Now, before I even knew about John, and before I even knew about the Egyptian timeline, I was receiving information that everything is going to change post 2037, 2038, right? 2037, 2038 was my range. And then again, I heard about John Van Elken. I heard about his research. I heard what he's doing. He's one of the directors of the ARE. Okay, that's the Edgar Cayce Foundation. And he was able to discover research, and other people have been doing research as well too, under him, or over him, I think. And they also discovered 2038, right? So 2038 represents this time. It's this, you could say it's the year of the null point, where we cross the null point, and from that point forward, everything starts moving much more into a natural direction again. Not right away, but transitionally, right? If we look at 2012 being the date that represented the nature of time acceleration, do you guys know that people were talking about 2012 going back into the 1970s, right? There's people talking about 2012 going back to the 1970s, the 1980s, the 1990s. Lord knows I heard about it even back in the 90s before I started doing any of this work, right? And I know I get people saying, oh, Brad, that's too long. Well, guys, That's not your choice. That's not my choice. That's a cycle, right? Just like 2012 was a cycle. And maybe you heard about it back in the 1980s. It's a cycle, right? So 2012 is a cycle. 2038 was a cycle. That's really the benchmark in regards to this acceleration of time that we've been going through. And then from 2038 to 2064, that's the end of that breaching cycle. Everything starts to move back into normalization. And people keep constantly telling me, Brad, I may not be alive around that time. It doesn't matter. If you're alive or not, you're going to feel this shift, right? It does not matter. If you do not have a physical body, if you are wandering the astral plane, if you are going up into the causal plane, it does not matter. You are going to feel it. So, whether you have a body here on a planet, or whether you have a body in the astral, a body in the causal, doesn't matter. You're going to feel it. All of us are going to feel it. The disembodied will feel it. Nobody is going to escape this. This is for everybody. So, Michael was asking that question as well too, right? He was asking, 2038 is kind of a long cycle, and a lot of people are impatient. I know, believe me, I know that, and they think about it might just be a while, for that to happen. So, it's really going to come quicker than you think, because if we're looking at time acceleration here, you're basically looking at something that's going to be here in about 13 years, right? So, and again, like I said, I've also told Michael, and I told everybody here, that you guys aren't even going to really feel this when this happens. 2038 is not something that you're going to point at. Okay? You can't point at it. But it's representing a demarcation. It's representing a benchmark shift. We're moving from one dimension to another. So people are going to look back at these videos, even when 2038 comes, and say, Brad, nothing happened. Nothing happened. There's still 2038. And I said, well, because you're not supposed to point at it, right? You're not supposed to point at 2038 and say, oh, look, something's happened. You feel it inside, right? It's a shift that's taken place. And you have to kind of measure event at the same time. You're going to notice that there will be shifts taking place, right? That shift will represent the idea of the ending of wars, the ending of poverty, right? The ending of a lot of these old systems that represent corruption. They're going to be stopping right around that time, right? And so you have to learn to measure event. It's like how people were complaining about 2012, thinking that nothing happened. But in that fact, something did happen. And that represented the acceleration of time. It was the benchmark point to begin the acceleration of time. And then it's moving into 2038, which is the culmination of that. And then it comes out through the other end, which is representing the renormalization of time. But what the human guardians are doing together with these other groups is they are working together in helping to correct this prism, right? This prism that has been shattered, this prism that has been meddled with. And all of the events collectively that we're seeing on the planet right now, specifically there to help shift the collective consciousness into a new light, are holograms. Basically, we could say that Earth has already scripted out its events, and they're playing themselves out. But we're the ones that are reacting and interacting with those events. But they're already scripted. This is all part of a hologram, right? Everything that represents the events that you're going through is an orchestration. It's an orchestration of holography. It's all part of a certain program that is initiated through a particular type of planetary school like this to help people evolve. All of these particular types of events are very similar on what happens on other planets representing a maturing sentient civilization. They will go through similar things. This is a curriculum. It's a curriculum of holography based upon the energies of the collective. But it always plays the same game, right? We have a very intense game here, but it's still a game. It's a game of holographic orchestration. So everything pertaining to governments collapsing, to people in a state of oppression, to where old systems are about to dry out, to where new systems are going to be taking their place. This is textbook. This is textbook on many other planets. However, Earth does it in a very intense way. It's very intense here. It's very strong here because the human population is very, very strong-willed. They have a lot of power to them. So it's a much more of a bigger enhancement here, but they're still using the same playbook, which means you will have oppressors that will come to planets. And you will basically utilize those oppressors as teaching guides to helping you move much more into your own independent sovereignty. That's the whole nature of the game. So all of these events that we're going through right now is a result of holographic orchestration. It's scripts. That's why I say none of this is real. This is all part of an initiation to bring certain people into states of higher alignment, to say, can I let go of all of these dependencies that I've put upon myself going back many years, and can I start working on myself? Can I start healing myself? Can I start moving myself into that light? Can I start working with others and helping them as well too? That's what it all comes down to. That's the game. The game that is played upon millions of worlds. And Earth is just one of them. We have not gone off script. This script is still happening, right? How we react and interact is what makes it truly unique, but it's the same old shit. It's the same old curriculum. You're looking at a time to where there's a dark age on humanity, where humanity is being oppressed by a lot of these oppressors, bringing about all of these empires, trying to make people feel small, basically barricading them, letting them feed off the scraps of life. And then there will eventually come breakthroughs as the civilization evolves. Textbook curriculum that's found on millions of worlds. We're just going through a same old curriculum again and again and again and again until you get it. Until you understand that what's actually happening is you working to evolve yourself. Rather than focusing so much on the outward, like we're in a state of trance hypnosis, you have to learn to break out of the hypnosis and learn to work with yourself and now start seeing the bigger picture. And now you can evolve beyond the game. Now you go beyond the game. Now you go beyond the cycles. And now you are a free agent. And you can go anywhere and do anything you want, but as long as you're caught up in the trance hypnotic programming, you will want to come back again. You'll want to go back into it. I got to check on my parents. I got to check on my family. I want to have this much money in my bank account. I want to go and do this particular type of career. I want to have this type of relationship. I want to have these many kids. I want to travel to this area of the world, etc. And that's why we all come back. We all come back because we are entranced to the curriculum. The curriculum comes back again and again and again, right? So somebody asks about the moon. Well, okay, Brad, what does the moon have to play with this? I'm getting to that. Okay, I'll be getting to the moon. Keep your pants on. The moon itself has a lot of these frequency technologies on the moon, on itself altogether. The human guardians are one of many civilizations, approximately 40 different civilizations that exist on the moon. Okay, when you're looking at the nature of the moon has a great deal of frequency-based technologies that have basically helped to keep the grasp on this world for this curriculum to keep running. So the moon has a great deal of hidden technologies. Are there people operating on the moon? Hundreds of millions of people are operating on the moon. Is it really just all the dark side of the moon? No, there's also bases underground and even on the ground of the surface and the light side of the moon as well too, right? Are there spaceships, ancient spaceships that are crashed on the moon? Yes, because there's been a lot of wars and there's been a lot of fighting over this particular moon because it is a very unique technology. It primarily works with frequency technology. It basically works to maintain the hologram. It's the hologram that is basically keeping the splintering of this whole curriculum alive. So the moon itself is a base. It is a laboratory. It is an experimental site. It is a celestial body that is maintaining a laboratory of frequency being bombarded on the earth. So it has bombarded frequencies upon the earth altogether, often on a psychic level, a psionic level, to try to keep people in this state of fear and control, right? It's basically a gigantic psionic device. That's the moon, okay? So the moon is a gigantic psionic device that has been operated by previous clients, or you could say previous tenants. Those tenants have pretty much left the moon right now. They've basically been booted off. A lot of those ones are, well, there's different types. Some may say, well, Brad, were there reptilians involved? Not as many as you think, right? A lot of it was actually human. There's a lot of humanoids, human and humanoid races, ones known as the Greys as well, too. We could have ones also known as the Tall Whites, right? They basically had a lot of fingers in the pie, so to speak, with the moon, right? Tall Whites, Greys, some reptilian races, right? Some other humanoid races with different shapes of heads and so forth. Some of them come from Kapala, some of them come from Orion, some of them come from Antares, right? There's different types of beings that are here. Ursa Minor is here, yes, the Draco, right? Alpha Draconis. And they basically, like I said, they all have their finger in the pie. They're basically trying to rule at the same time that they also have to kind of share this pie. And what a lot of them were doing at the end is they were fighting with each other. They were trying to fight with each other and get a lot of this pie for themselves, for the Earth. The big agenda right now, for a lot of them, their old agenda, I would say, that's not really an agenda anymore, but the big agenda was for them to work together with the human race so that the human race would eventually kill itself off the planet, right? And the moon was a staging ground for that. It is a laboratory, it is a frequency generator, it is a psionic device, it is an artificial satellite, it is hollowed out, right? And it was being utilized for this means, right? And basically, these groups that were really dedicated to wanting to have the surface of the Earth for themselves were manipulating the human race through, quite commonly, technologies on the moon to go in and start getting humanity to fight with each other. And their hope is basically that humanity can basically just exterminate itself. And then once it's exterminated, they would come upon the planet and they would have the surface of the Earth for themselves, as there's no more tenancy. And the entire agreement karmically upon this planet can be nullified so that they could have this world for themselves. That's the big agenda. That's why the moon came into this. The moon is almost like a shackle for the Earth, right? There was a time when we did not have this moon around this planet, right? It goes back about maybe 12,000, 13,000 years, where we did not have a moon around the Earth. This moon, in that sense, moved in based upon new territory. There's nothing to say that the moon itself is bad, but in regards to the controllers behind it, right? That is basically the control, how it pushes and pulls the tides, how it works together with that gravitation. Well, that's the frequency effect I'm talking about, is again how the moon affects the Earth. It has that frequency coherency. And so the moon has all of this astounding technology, powerful technology. I mean, looking at Stargate technology, you're looking at looking glass technology, you're looking at all of these particular forms of technology, you're looking at psionic influence technology, okay? Where some people feel that they're afraid to go into the white light when they die because they think that they're going to go into a soul trap, right? And that's not how it works, right? It's a psionic device. It's basically causing you to see things that are not there or to believe in things that are not there. It's more of an illusionary device rather than the idea of keeping your soul trapped inside a cube or something of that nature. That's not even physically possible, okay? There's resonances that people operate, and when people basically have weak minds, it's very easy to influence that person, to give them the impression that they're going to move into something divine, when in fact it just becomes another trap, right? But that comes through psionic influence, okay? It is not possible to trap a soul. It's not possible to do that, okay? There's no technology that can do that, because a soul does not operate on a singular frequency. The soul is beyond frequencies. But when you're looking at a body that operates on certain frequencies, those frequencies can be manipulated through psionic devices. And you look at gigantic devices on the moon that are like towers. They're like crystal towers, and they basically are psionic charges. They're psionic emitters, right? So the moon has all of that technology. There's technology on the moon that would just blow you away, right? If you could basically go there and look at a lot of these particular types of technologies, it would be astounding, right? There's pyramids on the moon, there's ancient temples on the moon, there's installations on the moon, even bankers have had resorts on the moon, right? So the moon has been very, very mysterious. But even the top-notch bankers of the world have been able in the past to briefly visit the moon, right? Because there's resorts there. You actually have resorts on the moon, right? Inside craters. The moon has an atmosphere, okay? So that's something that maybe science doesn't realize yet, but it does. In order for it to basically, for us to actually have moonlight, right? Which is, again, is sunlight just reflecting on the moon. That sunlight for the moon, for it to actually be there, requires an atmosphere. If there is no atmosphere, you will not see moonlight, okay? Because as I said, the sun does not have its own heat, and it does not have its own light. It is a radioactive well. And so its radiation is going throughout the entire system. It works toroidally. Okay, do you guys understand the nature of torus science, toroidal science? Understanding the nature of the dielectric, understanding the nature of magnetism. Because when you understand that, you'll know exactly how solar systems work. This is not a fiery ball. How can a fiery ball exist when there's no oxygen in space? It's not possible, right? So that basically debunks ridiculous science theories of thinking that the Earth is a big fireball sitting in the middle of space. How can there be fire when there's no oxygen? You guys ever tried to go inside a vacuumed out room with no oxygen and try to light a match? Can't do it. So how could we get fire in space? You can't. It's not possible. So this is, again, looking at the nature of how the sun itself is a radiation well. It's basically a singularity. It's a stabilized singularity. Whenever we're looking at supernova, or whenever we're looking at black holes in that sense, this is really the idea where its magnitude or mass has been absorbed into the dielectric. So dielectric mass takes over. And basically that's where we could see the idea of the supernova basically going through dielectric integration. We can look at the nature of a black hole that represents the loss of magnitude, where we see only the dielectric that remains. Okay? So it's like looking at that hole in the center, right? If I'm basically pulling something up, let me see if I can pull something up so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. Ken Wheeler has talked about this quite extensively, but I'm just going to do a Google search here on what's known as a ferrocell. Okay, and let's see if I can pull one up here. Okay, so let me go to my window here. Just be 1 second here, guys. If I can figure this thing out. Okay. What I'll do is I'll just move my camera. It'll be a little bit easier. It'll take some time to do that. Okay, so you see that image right there. Okay, this is taken under a ferrocell. And ferrofluid is basically just magnetized fluid. It basically shows the nature of magnetism. That is what's known, again, as a ferrocell. And we're looking here at the idea of what you would refer to as a north pole and a south pole. But it is not actually a north pole and a south pole, because everything pertaining to magnetism is qualitative and not quantitative. Okay? So what that means is that if you have a magnetized rectangular block, if you were able to somehow cut slices off that block, you would see that every single one of those slices has a magnetic field. Basically has what we would know as the toroidal geometry here, with the North Pole and the South Pole. But again, it's not a North Pole and a South Pole. It's the result of counter space. Okay? So again, that's something that is, you need to kind of look into it, right? It's people are just going to be scratching their heads. But what I just showed you there is the geometry of the sun. What I just showed you there is the geometry of the earth. What I just showed you there is the geometry of yourselves, is the geometry of all life. There's only two geometries in nature, the torus field and the hyperboloid, the donut and the hourglass. That's all that exists in life. So when we're looking at these things, when we're looking at this is telling us about toroidal science. This is looking at the etheric science, the nature of how things are, right? So that's how the sun works. The sun is basically radiating its own natural radiation throughout the entire star system for celestial bodies to absorb it within their atmospheres like a membrane. And the moon has an atmosphere, okay? which means there is actually air in certain areas of the moon. Usually you'll go into like the domed craters, and they'll have oxygen supplies, right? If you basically stay outside of the moon, I would say that there may be air, but it may be too thin to breathe, right? So basically that's why they would need to have suits on and so forth. But if you go out into the craters, if you see these dome craters, and of course that's been found on satellites as well too, some of them are even shattered, right? This moon is billions of years old. It's an ancient moon. It's not even native to the star system. It's come from somewhere else, right? So this is all part of a technology. It was once around the planet of Meldeck, okay? Does everybody here know what Meldeck is? Give you guys a minute to see if anyone knows what Meldeck is. If anybody knows about Meldeck, what's Meldeck? Okay, Meldeck is the name of the original 5th planet. Okay, that is now the asteroid belt that exists between Mars and Jupiter. So when Meldeck was alive, it was a super Earth. It might have been around maybe 5 or 6 times the size of Earth herself. Okay, it was a super Earth that existed in our star system a couple of 100,000 years ago. Okay, and it had satellites, and it is believed that many of the inner planets that are here right now, from Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, were once originally satellites of Meldeck. Okay, as Adronis was talking about a couple of years ago. So Meldeck went through an internal war. Basically, the core of the planet itself exploded from the inside. We could basically say it would be much more of an implosion. Now, for those of you who have read The Law of One, The Law of One also talked about Meldeck being destroyed by an internal war. Some people basically get into the Planet X theory, where they think that Tiamat was basically coming in and it smashed into Meldeck, and they said that's not possible. That would not be possible because, frankly, if you had the idea of an external object smashing into a sphere, you would still have a great remainder of that sphere remaining within the debris field. There is no debris field that would represent any particular signification of a planet that was smashed into externally. So that entire theory is bunk. So really what has happened is what we see as a result of the asteroid belt is a result of internal combustion. The idea of the core of the planet itself exploding, right? And whatever happened during that time, apparently all the other planets were able to preserve themselves. Maybe they had to move away from a safe distance or whatever took place. But a nuclear war is basically what led to the end of Meldeck. And through Meldeck, there was our moon that we have. That was one of the satellites around Meldeck. And then it moved over to Earth, right? After a certain amount of time. So who knows if it was stationary like on Mars or anything of that nature. That's something that needs to be investigated further. But our moon was basically also one of the satellites of Meldeck, right? And then basically we could say 12 to 13,000 years ago, that moon moved into Earth's orbit. And so something happened, something took place. And so everything representing the moon is a psionic device. And why the human guardians are working with it is because they're powering down a lot of the work that this moon has done to create an illusion. And basically they're going to use it for good, which means the moon is no longer going to be weaponized. It's going to be unified. That's why they're there. So to the person who wants to know more about the moon, is that enough knowledge for you? Or do you want some more? Okay. So again, like I said, moon is part of it, but there's a much bigger story to this than just looking at the nature of the moon, right? So there's the moon. There's understanding a little bit more about it being a psionic device, but also looking at it in regards to the nature of the human guardians and what's the bigger picture here. The bigger picture is that everything is about to be rewritten. Everything's about to be reintegrated. Everything's about to change and shift much more into unity consciousness rather than continued separation consciousness, because that's the big message that came out of this. The human guardians are us. They are versions of ourselves thousands of years ahead in the future because they come from different parallel Earths. Those are the Earths that I talk about that are separated right now. So you have different types of human civilizations, many of them that are highly advanced, that are utilizing a common staging ground. And that common staging ground is the moon, right? Because the moon is basically what's causing a lot of this fractalization, or I would say fragmentation rather. This fragmentation and then moving it back into fractalization that unifies everything, right? So the moon has basically been the rock that has been thrown upon the shattered glass. So they go to the moon and they're working together with the technology to help slowly reverse this effect that again can take years, right? Like I said, with 2024, 2025, a lot of things have been powered down, but you got to power these things down gradually. It's like medication. You don't just get off it, right? You have to transition this off layer by layer. And that's really what they're doing with a lot of this psionic technology that exists on the moon, to where there are about 40 different civilizations that are occupying the moon right now as I'm talking to you. And again, the moon is an artificial satellite. It is a psionic device. It is a laboratory. It is a staging ground. It is the rock that has been thrown at the glass. And now, utilizing its technology, it's going to work to correct the glass. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? Hopefully that does. So that's what's happening with the moon altogether. Okay? So let's go to questions now, because that's what I wanted to share with the Earth Intelligence Report. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's go into any questions that we have. I think there's some donation-based questions first, so I'll look into that one. Okay, so there's one from EUM142. Says, hi Brad, please see question below. Okay, EUM142, you did not leave a question. Okay, so I don't see it in your donation, and I don't see it here above the chat either. So if you're still on, please feel free to put your question, because I don't see it. Okay, let's go to the Year of the Fire Horse. Hi Adronis, does detoxification of the physical vessel enable us to assimilate higher frequency energies more smoothly, enabling us to evolve more? So just so you guys know, for the Earth Intelligence Report, I'm not bringing in Adronis, okay? That's just for the Wisdom Nexus, because I'm not doing personal readings here. This is the Earth Intelligence Report. But I can answer your question in regards to what you're saying, okay? Does detoxification of the physical vessel enable us to assimilate higher frequency energies more smoothly, enabling us to evolve more? The answer is yes, right? That's why I basically talk to you guys about the importance of detoxifying your body, mineralizing your body. When we have a proper mineralized body, the amount of sensitivity that you feel, because here's the thing, hardly any human being on this planet is actually pure, right? We're polluted by something. We're polluted by the air. We're polluted by the water. We're polluted by the food that we eat. We're polluted by our thoughts mentality. We're polluted by mentalities. We're polluted by emotions. We're polluted by traumas. We're polluted by desires. We're polluted by environment. We're polluted by other people who feel that they're bringing us down. There's all of this pollution. Now imagine all of that pollution ends. And when that pollution ends, what takes place within the body? Complete and total restructuring of the lattice work, representing the body itself. So with all of that pollution that's taking place, and actually moving yourself into remineralization and optimal health, you could basically be like a Jesus on the planet, right? That's really how powerful you can get. And like I said, it's more about the idea of looking at the bigger picture of things, right? It's going into that state because meditation is a part of it, right? And meditation can mean different things, but really what it represents is to burn up. It's to burn up the illusions within your mind. It's to burn up the illusions of who and what you think you are. So remineralizing your body, detoxification of the system, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, would basically make you like a Jesus on the planet. And I mean that very, very literally, okay? We are very powerful beings, but we have no clue as to our power. We haven't even demonstrated it yet. We haven't even really demonstrated a flake of it yet. We're too caught up with intellectualism and logic. And that's only going to take you so far. It's the idea where you become a well-rounded vessel, and you are actually detoxifying yourself not only to move into higher frequencies, but to move into all frequencies, right? It's the idea that when everybody craves high frequency like it's a drug, right? It's not just about high frequencies. It's looking at the low ones too. You learn from the low ones to move into the high ones, right? You don't admit that. It's like a person that becomes obsessed with the light and the dark, right? I just want to be of the light. I don't want to touch the dark at all. Well, then you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to learn, and you're not going to evolve, and you're not going to transform. The darkness is necessary. Same thing with that low vibration. You need to experience it. You need to go through it, because that's the mud that's making the lotus flower grow, right? The mud is needed in order for a lotus to be born, to blossom. Without that mud, there is no lotus, right? Without the dirt and the soil, there are no plants, there are no flowers, there are no trees. And that's the darkness, okay? That, again, is the ancient alchemical wisdom pertaining to the nature of the dark and the light. They need each other because they're all part of the one. This is not about seeking high frequency like a moth running to a flame. This is the idea of saying, are you learning from your experiences pertaining to darkness so that it can enable you to grow deeper into the light? That's the key here. So this is not all about higher frequencies. This is the idea where you can basically be one with all frequencies. You are the dark and the light. You are the good and the bad. You are the up and the down. You are the forward and the backward. So it's the idea of seeing everything omnipresently. It's coming into the nature of omnipresence, omniscience, omnipotence, right? That's the nature of yourself. When you move into that omnipresent state, that omniscient state, that omnipotent state, that's where you see everything. And that can happen while you're in a body, right? But again, if we get too obsessed with all these pollutions, then we stay where we're at, right? So yes, Chris, with your question, that is exactly what can happen. All right, good question. Thank you for that. Okay, so EUM just says he'll repost. I still haven't received it, EUM, so please post when you can, okay? So again, guys, I know there's questions for Adronis, but like I said, I'm not bringing Adronis in today, so I'm just going to do my best to answer for him. Like I said, he will be on the Wisdom Nexus. He's not on Earth Intelligence Report. So I really want to kind of keep the questions a little bit simple rather than thinking that I'm doing personal readings. That's why I have another webcast for that. But like I said, as I'm going to Egypt, the next wisdom transmissions won't be till like the 23rd or 24th, whatever that Friday is. That's when the next one will be. So Gijo says, you had mentioned that we need to drink 3 liters of water every day. Not 3 liters, 4 liters. 4 liters of water every day. I had read about the Bedouin tribe who drank 2 glasses of water a day and are very healthy. Could you please explain? Well, that's not all that they're drinking, okay? It's not just the idea of drinking 2 glasses of water per day. Here is the entire science that you have to understand. When a person comes to me and they are heavily toxic, if all I'm telling them to do is drink 2 glasses of water, they won't get anything done. They won't get anything out of it, okay? What you're doing here, Gijo, is you're missing many other steps that they have taken prior to the idea where they just need 2 glasses of water today. I know what you're saying, and I know it's absolutely possible, but you're missing a lot of other steps that they need to take before they actually reach that point where they can just have some water and then they're fine, okay? When you are extremely toxic, we basically need to get you off the diet that you're currently eating with, because that's making you sick. Okay, so all the food that you're eating is crappy food, and it's making your body filled with mucus, filled with acid, filled with stagnancy, filled with inflammation. Your current diet doesn't work. Okay, so what we do is we kind of transition you off that. So we start bringing in some alkaline formulas. We start working with some alkaline capsules. We start working with some alkaline teas. We start working with some alkaline smoothies. Okay, so all of those things that are alkaline, mineral-based, are now starting to replenish your body. But as you're doing that, you are going to go through symptoms. Okay, it varies from person to person, but it's very common to get headaches, stomach aches, joint stiffness, nausea, indigestion, backaches, sores, other forms of stiffness. That happens, but it's not the alkaline that's doing that. It's the acidity and mucus that have been built up in your body for many years that are now actually looking to be pulled out. And so the body will go through states of sore muscles, sore tension, because it's telling you it's under construction right now. Don't do anything too rigorous. Keep the body at rest. That's why the body gets sore. That's why the body gets stiff. That's why the body gives you signs of nausea. It's like these under construction signs that are being placed on the body and saying, don't do anything right now. Just rest. Get your rest, get your sleep, drink some water, right? Drink some alkaline water or some spring water. Nothing else. No distilled water, no reverse osmosis water, no filtered water, no tap water. 2 choices, spring water or alkaline water. Nothing else. Okay? Recommendation, alkaline water. Okay? Because that has the highest pH. So with the highest pH, that enables irrigation. That is helping to neutralize mucus. That's why we have a high pH with water. And we have a high pH with the minerals that you'll be taking. Because that high pH is what's going to clean out the mucus within your body. Because the mucus is containing all of that toxicity in your body that's making you sick. So with the water irrigation, with the minerals that you're taking, you're cleaning out the entire lattice work of the body by cleaning out the mucus. And your emotional imbalances are also caused by toxic, eroded states in the body. This is not about germs. There are no germs. Germs are the result of microzyma. Microzyma are microorganisms that exist within your tissues of your body, and that they will transmute themselves. They are polymorphic, which means, and this is seen under microscopes, right? This is science talking about it. Science that works with the terrain body, not germ theory, where they can actually see them transform, and they look like geometries, where they can look at them as bacteria, as virus, and as fungus. And they will transmute themselves so that they can adapt in the environment that's there. When we have something like bacteria, viruses, and fungus, we're looking at something that has a very high acidic zone within that body that is highly eroded. When that bodily erosion becomes remedied, the erosion now starts to move back into an alkaline environment. The microzyma now start to shift back out of fungus, virus, or bacteria, and now start to realign themselves back with the tissue, becoming microzyma again. So they are transmutable. The entire universe is filled with microzyma, not bacteria. Bacteria is a phase transmutation of microzyma. So you have microorganisms in space. And the microorganisms can basically adapt themselves. They can adapt themselves to bacteria because they can actually feed off of the atmosphere of planets. And they can do that as bacteria. They can do that as amoeba. They can do that as different forms. They can gather together and they can form themselves as amoebic organisms. That is what truly exists within the universe. Microbiotic life forms. Not bacteria. Not viruses. Not fungus. Those are transmutations. It's not the actual core. This is discovered through terrain research. And one of the persons who was one of the big pioneers of that was a fellow by the name of Antoine Béchamp, a French scientist who basically took the piss out of Louis Pasteur and his ridiculous, stupid, plagiarized idea of germ theory that he got from somebody else in the 17th century. It wasn't even his idea. He never proved it, never proved that germ theory exists, but they used it because it's a money model. It's a marketing model. You can't market the terrain body. There's no money in that. All you have to do is get a person to eat healthy, get mineralization in their body, get them to alkaline. You cure everything. You cure cancer. You cure diabetes. You cure AIDS. You cure paralysis. You cure lupus. You cure every known disease to man with herbalism and alkaline. That cures everything. How do I know that? Who's the founding father of the medical industry? Hippocrates, who lived 3 centuries before Jesus Christ, who healed every known disease to man using what? Herbalism. Even in our modern day, looking at someone like Dr. Sebi, no longer here, passed away in 2016, who was able to heal people from AIDS, cancer, diabetes, all other particular types of illnesses just by working with what? Herbalism, alkalinity. That is the cure to everything. Period. Not germ theory, not vaccines, not vitamins, not everything that's man-made, because that's what the industries are trying to tell you. We'll produce this pill, and this pill is going to make you better. Yeah, bullshit. Because all you're doing is robbing people of their money while you're giving them some bogus pill while they are suffering and getting more sick. The pharmaceutical industry is nothing but a chemical factory. And when you even look at the Bible, does it say that chemicals are going to be the healing for all nations? Tell me, guys, is that what it says? Or does it say herbs are the cure to all nations? It's herbalism. Herbalism is right in front of our face, but we don't bother to take it. We don't bother to study it because you're looking at all of these industries that are being shoved right in your face, thinking that this is exactly how you should be living, rather than looking at the natural flow of medicine. And that is through herbalism, and that is through alkaline, and that is through inner alchemy of your body. That's working with your energy. That's working with your mind. That's feeding your body with alkaline. That's what makes the difference. How many people know about this? Hardly anybody. Very small minority of the planet knows exactly what I'm talking about here, because the majority doesn't, because we've gone in through the fast food and the fast medicine and the fast this and the fast that of life. And this is what I'm talking about with the curriculum. The curriculum's the same damn thing over and over and over and over again until you snap out of the trance, until you get out of your hypnosis and you see yourself and you start working with yourself and you start looking past the status quo, which is what a lot of us are starting to do now, which is great. We're starting to catch up with that, right? And it's only going to intensify a lot more, even especially as we go into next year. Okay. Speaking of next year, and Gijo, thanks for your question. Bosmat here has a question. Hey, what will happen in Israel in 2026 and with the agreement with Gaza? It's going to get more violent. Okay, so again, 2026, like I said, is that we're looking at things where a lot of stuff is going to be unhinged. It's like ripping the door off the whole year in that sense. So, but through the idea of intensity and violence will come resolution, right? Because the whole idea of why Israel is doing this, it's nothing but land grabs, it's nothing but resources, it's nothing but greed. And those that have funneled that particular type of greed need to be taken out of the picture. Once they're taken out of the picture, then everything can start to stabilize itself, specifically with Gaza, right? But there's always going to be the fine print in regards to details with agreements and with treaties in that sense. And they're still going to try and wage war, and they're still going to basically find loopholes within the system, and they're going to create terrorist cells. They're going to create cells there, and it's going to continue to have war. That's not the answer. Everything that represents the people needs to stand up and working together. And this is why, like I said, in 2026, it really is going to lead to a lot of people on the planet going out into the streets and demanding significant change. That has an impact on the collective because, as I've talked about, even when I was talking to Michael Salla, how many of you guys saw my interview with Michael Salla? Pretty sure there's quite a few of you here. One of the things I told him to do, because something he asked was, what can people do to really make change here? And I said, join mass meditations. That's what you do. Okay? As you join mass meditations, you are part of a unified thought. You're part of a unified collective. That makes significant change. When you have hundreds of thousands of people out on the streets demanding for something, that is a powerful energetic. That's a matrix right there. That is going to change things around really quickly. And so 2026 is going to be really intense. It's a fire year. It's a wild horse, right? Like it's blazing, like a blazing infernal wild horse. And it's going to be smashing through walls, right? It's not going to be playing nice and think, oh, the government's saying it's going to do this. Okay, we can calm down. No, 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 no. It is going to go to war with the government. And what I mean by that is that it's a thought war, not a physical war with killing. But the idea of a thought war, it's a psychic war, a psionic war, a mental war that is taking place where the people's will now becomes so powerful that everything has to change. Why do you think, guys, that a lot of the mainstream media is not even showing a lot of the protests that are going on across the planet right now? They're basically censoring it out, especially with what's happening with Italy right now. A lot of that's being censored out. A lot of what's happening around the United States is being censored out. Even what's happening in Toronto and Canada is being censored out because a lot of people are taken to the streets. And this is going to intensify in 2026. So when we look at the nature of Israel and what's happening with Gaza, well, that is going to make significant changes, but things are going to get more intense before they get better in regards to Gaza, right? So a lot of people, even beyond Israel, are going to be supporting Gaza, right? And with all that type of support, Gaza is going to go through significant changes, significant shifts, as these ruling elitists are being taken out of their power. So let's do a quick tarot spread in regards to what we can see relating to Gaza and Israel in 2026. Okay, so like I said here, in 2026, things are going to continue to ensue. Now, again, when we look at the Eight of Wands, this represents manifestation, this represents energy, okay? Things are going to still culminate and still get intense as they are. However, it's going to lead to some emotional stability, right? So we can see the early stages of this taking place where there's actually ceasefires, where there's actually the end of violence. When we start moving into the second phase of that, which represents the present time of this prediction, it represents the Page of Wands. New ideas, new concepts, young ideas, youth now starting to come into the picture to basically settle down all of the violence. When we go into the tail end of this particular prediction, we see the Three of Wands, which means new beginnings, which means there's going to be a culminating period, which means Israel and Gaza are eventually going to stop fighting each other, right? It's all going to come together in fruition because the people will have made the difference. Emotional stability, emotional abundance, right? So there's the nine representing endings, right? So here we have, again, Pisces and Jupiter together, working together. Pisces, compassion, Jupiter, expansion, okay? So it's going to lead to transformation, but it still has to go through this first, right? It has to go through here. So there's going to be some intensities in 2026, but it is going to lead to this matrix of ending fighting, of ending the war, of ending all fighting together, because my feeling is that all those warmongers that are behind it are going to be gone. They're not going to be there anymore, thanks to the people standing up, not just within Israel, but around the world as well, too. So things are going to get better, but they're still going to be a little bit more intense before they get to that point. Okay? So that's what I have for an answer for that. Thank you very much. Okay. Hello, Vel, and hello, Mary. Thank you. Bella says, I enjoyed your podcast with Dr. Stella as well. So glad I found this channel. I've been on a podcast binge of your channel. Thank you. Oh, okay, great. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for being here, Val. Okay. Vince asked the question, how long do you see CCP in China lasting for? I don't see its end just yet. Let me kind of look into, I don't want to look into the tarot. I want to kind of look into the Akasha here for this one. because I haven't had that question asked to me yet about what about CCP China, right? Is there an expiration date or that? Of course, there will be an expiration date. Let me check things over the next couple of years and see exactly how things go. And I may even do some spiral Akashic viewing for this. I think that might be better. Okay. Two to 2.5 years. Feels like it. Okay, so I did what's known as spiral Akashic viewing. Okay, this is another thing that I invented, where you're basically using a spiral, seeing one spiral as 1 year, run one ring of it as 1 year. So my feeling is, starting from here, probably about 2.5 to 3 years. Within 2.5 to 3 years, we're probably going to see the flag banner of the CCP change, right? It may actually just now start to be an actual Republic of China, rather than the idea of a communism party. But that's my feeling. So I'm going to kind of look in 2026 as well, too, just in regards to the CCP and its health. Okay, yeah, it's still going to be there. 2027. Tides of change in 2027. Okay, tides of change. 2028. A little bit more implementation, integration, a little bit more of a further aheadness in seeing the CCP dissolve and moving into an actual Republic of China, right? Where it actually means the word Republic. So I'd say probably within the next 2.5 years or so. 2.5, maybe 3. But I'm getting from the spiral, it's about 2.5 years. So within that time, we may start to see the CCP go through a radical change, right? Because again, what's going to happen in China is exactly what's happening with many other places around the world. People are going to stand up, demand change. No more dictators are allowed on this planet, especially as we start getting into the 2030s. All of those dictators got to go. So we're going to see something taking place there relating to the complete and total scrubbing away of the CCP. So that'd be quite exciting too. All right, let's go further on here. Okay, blessings to Caro and to Anthony. Thank you very much. Oh no, so Anthony was talking about the moon earlier. Everybody's pretty quiet right now. So someone says you can't find the interview. You want to go to Dr. Michael Sala's channel. I don't have his link right now, but you can just type in Dr. Michael Sala, and you can also just type in Brad Johnson. Dr. Michael Sala, Brad Johnson. It's there. I'm going to be putting it up on my website here this weekend. So you can always just go on to wisdomtransmissions.com. You'll find the video down there. I haven't done it yet, but I'll see if I can get around to that and put up the new updated video, because I did an interview with him before a few months ago. That's the one that's currently on the website, but I'm going to change it to the new one here very shortly. Okay. So Vugar here, oh, sorry, let me go back to, sorry, Vugar, I'll get to your question here in a second. Rose says, so if we connect to the moon for some rituals or meditations, we connect with a frequency machine. No, if you connect to the moon, I want you to connect to the heart of her. Okay, she's a living being. But the whole idea is, think of it kind of like a bionic situation, okay? On the surface, it's like the moon, the earth as well too, right? The earth has a lot of technology on her, but that doesn't make her evil, okay? The moon has a lot of technology on her. Doesn't mean she's evil. You just go past the technology. You go right into her heart, right? She has been certainly mutilated, so has the earth, right? But she still has her spirit. And that's what you connect to. You connect with the heart of the moon. The moon is not some evil thing, right? Even though upon its surface, there's been some very, very despicable weaponized intentions with the moon. But if you start to connect with the moon's heart, you'll feel that grace, right? So the moon is not some evil thing, and I'm not trying to paint a picture in that way, but it has been utilized in weaponization as a platform, okay? And it is a hollowed out sphere, but its heart is still intact, right? So you're learning to connect with the heart of the moon. You want to feel kind of the feminine grace of the moon, of Luna, or whatever name you want to call her. But you can connect with her in regards to a harmonious way. But yes, on the surface, there's a lot of nasty stuff that's being done. But like I said, a lot of that is being reversed right now. Like I said, on the earth, a lot of nasty stuff technologically is being done, but the heart of the earth remains. So it's the same thing with the moon. Connect with her heart, right? Go into her center. Just see a white dot right in the center of the moon and go past her surface and go right into that white dot. That white dot is her heart. That is her singularity. That is her core. That's what you want to connect to when you're doing moon rituals. Go into her center. Okay? Thank you. Let's see. This one here is from Vugar. Vugar says, I drink distilled water with Himalayan salt soul per serving. Is that enough? Like I said, there's only 2 waters I recommend, alkaline and spring water. I don't recommend distilled water. You can use distilled water to cook with, but don't drink it. Okay. The reason being is because distilled water is flat water. Even if you're putting Himalayan salt into it, the structure of the water itself is flat. So it doesn't matter if you add a little bit of Himalayan salt. It's not really going to do anything. Okay, it's that flat water that's going in and it's absorbing minerals, right? When water like that is flat, it's going to be like a sponge and it starts absorbing minerals out of your body. And then when you're going out to pee, you're peeing out those minerals together with the flat distilled water. There's no benefit to distilled water, right? The greater benefit is mineralization, right? Doctors may say, oh, drink some distilled water. I'd say, no, don't do that. I've seen doctors prescribe Coca-Cola to drink to other people. So no offense, but they have no idea what they're talking about. You don't work with distilled water for drinking. Okay, it just does not work. I even had arguments with people in the past. I said, sorry, man, that's not what's responsible for cleaning out your gray hair. What's going to help to clean out your gray hair is minerals, not distilled water. Distilled water is a flat property. It's not going to help you. So this is why I say don't drink distilled water. Get spring or alkaline water. Those are the only 2 I accept. I don't accept any other forms of water, right? Another thing that you could also do is have like watermelon water, cantaloupe water, right? Those things are very good as well too, because that has a lot of essential minerals in it as well too. When you're looking at watermelon, when you're looking at cantaloupe, it's great. You can have that too. But again, distilled water, big no-no. Cook with it, yes. Drink it, no. Okay. Even Himalayan salt, I would be a little bit mindful of, because Himalayan salt doesn't really have as much nutrition as people believe it to be. Okay. What is a lot better than Himalayan salt is number 1, Baja Gold Sea Salt. Okay, that's the one that you want. When you get it, it kind of feels damp, right? That's that good nutrition that's there in the Baja Gold Sea Salt. The Baja Gold Sea Salt has over 92 minerals in it. And that's what you want. It's so much better than Himalayan salt. The second option would be Celtic salt. Okay, but Celtic salt you have to be careful with, because some brands basically have lead in them, right? So this is why I'd recommend number 1, Baja Gold Sea Salt. Okay, well over Himalayan salt and well over Celtic salt. Okay, that is the best one. So that is the one I'd recommend. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so Kurti here. So around 2038, we'll have fresh water, pure air, and non-toxic food. From who? From who? It's not just something that's going to pop out of thin air. It's something that we develop. It's something that we work with. What's happening in 2038, guys, is not a miracle time. Okay, and that's, again, I know people are going to have that kind of question. Oh, but everything in 2038 is going to be peaches and cream, right? No. But what's happening is that we're seeing the end of all of this corruption. We're seeing the end of centralization. Centralization is going. And everything pertaining to a lot of these interfering bodies that are preventing humanity to evolve will be gone. Okay, that's what's leaving. You're still going to have challenges. You're still going to have to work together with your own emotional centers. But it's going to be a time of collective healing upon the planet. There are so many injured people, guys. I've worked with about 15,000 people over these past 17 years. Every single one of them have been injured. And every single one of them is wounded. Every single one of them is hurt. So looking at that, there's some work for you to do. But you're not going to have that influence upon yourself about regressives and trying to poison and intoxicate people. People are actually going to start looking at the true wisdom, at the true learning. It's not just going to instantly manifest and say, okay, guys, it's January 1st, 2038. Now, all of a sudden, the oceans are pure. Now, all of a sudden, the air is pure. Where'd that come from? Oh, I don't know, just because. No. Humanity has to get there by themselves, which means they are going to invent things. that are going to clean the air. They are going to invent things that are going to clean the oceans. They are going to invent things that's going to clear out a lot of the hybrid and processed garbage foods off the planet. They are going to be innovative, and they're going to start actually looking into fertilizing soil properly so that minerals actually grow and start mineralizing everything. They're going to start moving back into alkalinity. But that is going to come with time. It is not thinking that in 2038, everything's good, guys, our problems are over, yeehaw, hallelujah, kumbaya. No, that is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that when we get through 2038, everything will significantly change so that it enables the opportunity for humanity on a collective mass to start growing up and to start maturing and to start seeing how we can better each other without all of this polluting, psychotic, dark energy interference getting in the way, because that's going to be gone. So that's what's taking place. We got a lot of healing to do on this planet. Healing that's going to last a century, at least, right? We got about a century's worth of healing to do. It's not to say that some of you won't make breakthroughs, but here's the thing. So many of you depend so much on where the collective's going that if the collective's not going there, you feel hopeless. You got to get out of that mentality. You got to get out of this monkey see, monkey do situation. As I've talked about, when we go into 2038, it's going to be the opening of new centers in the body. Okay, everybody will have that capability, but here's the thing. Everybody right now has the opportunity to work with their 7 main centers in the body. Does everybody do that? No. Hardly anybody actually works with their centers properly, but we have that. And now when you go post 2038, you're going to have 12 centers to work with. Is everybody going to do that? No, very few. Even though they're there, and we'll actually be able to start seeing scientifically how we can actually discover the chakras through the causal plane. Because chakras are causal in nature. They are not physical and they are not astral. They work through those dimensions, but their source is in the causal, right? So when you're working together with the extra centers, the 5 extra centers beyond the body, people can certainly work with that. And when that time comes, maybe if I'm still kicking around here, I'll teach you guys how to do that, right? I'm already teaching you guys how to work with your main centers right now, but not a lot of you do it, right? And it's great if you do it, because that's what's going to help you with your health. Like I said, it's your physical health, it's your emotional health, your mental health, your energetic, and your spiritual health. That's all the parts of it. So if you guys want me to teach this stuff, you need to make your voices heard. Brad, please do a video more about the chakras. Okay, I'll put that on my list. Brad, teach me more about working with internal alchemy so that I can make my body feel better. Okay, I'll do that. But you guys are so quiet. Hardly any of you say it. So this is why I'm really just working with what I've got. There's not enough loud people on here to say, Brad, talk about this, talk about that. Be more than happy to, right? But I just need to hear it from you, right? Because I'm being of service to what you want me to talk more about. Okay, so let's go on to, how are we on time here? Okay, we're almost out of time here. Okay, this one here is from Todd. Todd says, after death, what happens? We just hang around like Beetlejuice does. Beetlejuice. Okay. Is that all you're doing when you're alive? Are you just hanging out like Beetlejuice does? No, my friend. Okay, that's an entirely different world. So here's the thing. I speak a very, very different language when it comes to the idea of what happens incarnationally when you decide to leave this incarnation, leave this body, and see what happens. I speak a different language. Now, maybe that language will jive with you. Maybe it will not. But if you're looking at, I'm assuming you're joking with that, okay? So, I mean, I like Beetlejuice as well, too. Saw it quite a few times. It's a riot, okay? When you're looking at the nature of death, physical death, you've never died in the first place, okay? And this is where people get confused. Oh, Brad, come on, of course I've died. I'm dead. I leave a body. I said, well, is that body you? Is that body you? Well, no, exactly. Because you leave your body every single night that you go to sleep. So, Todd, do you hang around like Beetlejuice does every single night that you go to sleep? Do I have to play the Jeopardy music here? Because that's really the same question. When you go to sleep at night, are you like Beetlejuice? Are you just hanging around a waiting room? Or do you go into these different dimensions? Do you go into these different realms? Do you start meeting different people? Do you start seeing new sights, new sounds, new experiences? Do you see yourself again as a different person? Like, have you actually looked at yourself in a mirror in a dream to see exactly what you look like? I did just recently. I had hair, for God's sakes. It was nice. Okay. I was actually able to look at my astral body in a dream, looking at a mirror and seeing what I look like. I look nothing like this. Right? So, if you know that that is what's happening in your dream time, when you leave your body at night, what do you think happens when you die? What do you think happens when the body leaves? You're going back to those type of realms, right? And you will have more of a vivid experience of those particular realms. So the physical dimension is a concentrated dimension. It is a dimension of deep material concentration. It is linear in its nature because of its density. When you lighten that density up, you're moving much more into the non-linear state of being. But you're occupying the same space as those that are here in the physical. They just cannot see you. They cannot perceive you because, like I said, it's like a goldfish being taken out of its aquarium and put on the land to see if it's going to adapt. It's going to die, right? It's just not going to work. We are not able to perceive those dimensions through the physical body. The physical body operates through a concentrated density right here on the physical earth, right? We can call that 3D or whatever you want to term it. That's fine. And then when you go off into the astral plane, it is a much more lighter realm. It's like the fish being taken out of water, right? It's representing a much more different construct pertaining to its density. And through that, you are able to have non-linear experience. You can go and see loved ones. You can go and explore other realms. You can go and explore other dimensions. You can go and play with other planets. You can go and connect with ETs if you want to. There's no limit to what you can do. It's like I said, what do you want to do in the dream plane? If you were conscientious, if you were conscious in the dream plane, what would you do? Oh, Brad, I'd like look at these kingdoms that are made out of gold. I'd be talking to angels all the time. I'd go talk to the ancient masters. I'll go hang out with Beetlejuice in the lobby. Great. Because you can do all those things, right? So it's the same thing when you leave the body. Okay, when you leave the body, your physical body is not there. Now, what happens quite commonly is that when we start to leave the body, it is quite common to actually be picked up by angels, right? Or basically you could say angelic forces. And what they can basically do is they can show you your life review, okay? So you may decide to play around for a little bit, and maybe there may be times where you can play around for a bit. But in order for you to proceed into another lifetime, you have to go through a life review, okay? Which means you're looking at this life and seeing everything that you've touched, seeing every person that you've connected with, seeing every person that you've had interactions with, be it positive, negative, what have you. And you're going on a tour and you're looking through interconnectedness, how you treated that person and how that person treated you. And you're feeling it very, very vividly. And every single one of us will go through a life review. If you want to progress and move forward into performing another task of incarnation, you have to go through your life review. It's unavoidable, okay? So you go through a life review and you experience all of those things, right? But like I said, if you want to play around for a little bit and play around the realms and the different dimensions and so forth, you can. But to say what happens, I said that's impossible for me to actually tell you because everybody's experience leaving the body is different from everybody else's. Other than the idea you don't have your physical body anymore and you're able to work much more non-linearly with yourself. But where you go and what you do, that depends upon your attitude. You don't change the person that you are when you die. Or again, when the body dies, not when you die. When the body dies, you're still you. Okay? So if that's a guy who still loves Beetlejuice, well, then he's going to basically go into those realms where Beetlejuice exists. Because that's what he's fond of. Right? So Todd, that's the whole idea, is that you have to see for yourself, you know, what is it that you would want to explore non-linearly? That's you. It's a whole universe that's open to you. It's like this world. This whole world is open to you. If you think you're bound for something, that's nothing but your beliefs and conditioning. This whole world is available to you. But what you decide to do is all based upon how you see yourself. That's your personality. And that personality preserves even after the death of the body. So I hope that gives you some insight upon it. Okay? Thank you. All right. Yeah, EUM142, I still don't have your question, man. maybe next episode, we'll see. Okay. So M. Panadera, thank you very much. Another person from Dr. Sala interview. Appreciate you being here. Okay. Thank you, Cardi. That's a great question. Okay. Brad, please do more videos about working with our chakras. Absolutely, I will. Thank you. Okay. That's what I like to hear from you guys. Brad, please do a video on this, do a video on that, because that keeps me busy, right? And I can hear back from what you guys want me to talk about. And I'm more than happy to talk about it. Okay. Now I do have videos on chakras on my YouTube channel, but I can go into much more deeper detail, right? How to integrate and work together with each one, right? So that'll be a future video I'll be more than happy to do. Okay. Okay. So again, guys, no Adronis questions for today. Like I said, that will come through Wisdom Nexus, which will be again when I come back from Egypt. So we'll get into those particular types of questions for Adronis-based inquiries. All right, so we're out of time. I got to wrap up. It's 11:30. So thank you, everybody, for all of your questions today. Really appreciate it. And again, I'll have some videos from Egypt, hopefully in the next few days as well, too. I also have another video here that I'm going to put up before I go to Egypt. But like I said, please check out wisdomtransmissions.com. You can do private sessions with me. You can do the personal transcendence package. There's also the Adronis Patreon as well, too. We got one more class here before I take a 2-week break going to Egypt. So that's all available for you. So check that out, wisdomtransmissions.com. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you in the next little while, next couple of weeks, I would say, on a live level. Bye for now. Take care.